All right, let's look at the calendar for the year of the Exodus here. I wrote this program many years ago, and it calculates the biblical calendar for the months of the year. This is a calendar for month 1 called Aviv, 1632 BC in the year of Exodus. Year 2508 Anno Mundi of the world, and in the proleptic sabbatic cycle, year 2, and in the Jubilee cycle, year 9. These datum here have to do with Bernard Yallop's calculation for the visible crescent of the new moon. Q1 is 0.411, which is a statistic for good visibility and a rating of A, which means easily visible. Q2 is a stat for the previous day, which means a minus would mean the visibility is impossible, and also the grade Z means visibility is impossible. LG stands for the lag time between sunset and moonset, 63 minutes. W is the crescent width in this case, arc minutes, 0.463 arc minutes, which would give you about 30 arc seconds about. Arc of light is the distance between the center of the sun and the center of the moon, 14 degrees. And arc of vision is the altitude difference between the sun and the moon at the moment of visibility, 13.2 degrees. The new moon is calculated for the longitude of 31.30 degrees and a latitude of 30.79 degrees. And the location is Tel Ed Daba, or as often also Tel El Daba, the location of Goshen in Egypt. And I'm the author of this program. So in 1632 BC, the new moon was seen where this question mark is. It was seen on the 5th day of the week in the evening. So these are the days of the week: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or first day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, sixth day, and seventh day for Sabbath. The shaded region here refers to a holy day or a Sabbath. This refers to a Sabbath. And the new moon day is, of course, on the day after the sighting of the new moon, which would be Friday this year. So we count first, second day of the month, third day of the month, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th day of the month. This was the day they went out of Egypt. This was the day they slaughtered the Passover lamb and put the blood on the doorpost. It was at midnight this night that the destroyer went over, and then in the morning they marched out of Egypt. They marched all night, since they went out of Egypt by night, and on the Sabbath they camped at Sukkot in the morning. So the 15th day, which is the day that proleptically became the annual Passover Sabbath this year, landed on Friday, or actually between Thursday night and Friday night. Here we have a three-coded number here. This refers to the 16th of the month. This refers to the number of Sabbaths after Passover. See if that's the first number. That would be the first number. The first number refers to the number of Sabbaths after the Passover. The next number refers to the number of days after the annual Passover Sabbath. So this is the first day after, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. This is the second Sabbath after, so it increments by 1. That's the 8th day. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And before we go to the next page, I'll explain this is the Julian calendar equivalent, as distinguished from the Gregorian calendar. March 28th, or actually March 27th, which is the day before, was when the new moon was seen. And March 28th is the new moon day, and also the 359th day of the old year, counting days of the year from the spring equinox. So we have 359, 360, 361, up to 365 days in the year. So we see that if we correlate these two calendars here, that the annual Passover Sabbath here, 1, 2, 3, was on April 11th, or the 8th day of the new solar year here. counting from the spring equinox. So it meets the criteria that the Passover should be in the new year and not in the old year. You can ignore these priestly divisions here. They're proleptic. Actually, they're only valid after the construction or inauguration of Solomon's temple. This is the Julian date and time for the sighting of the new moon at sunset. Okay, so now let's click off to the next calendar, the next month here. Okay, here we are in month 2, Ziv, 1632 BC. And the rest of the data, we have data for the new moon here. The sighting for this calculation is near Rephidim, in what is called the land of Midian, or near Mount Sinai, which is not in the so-called Sinai Peninsula, but is actually in Saudi Arabia. So the new moon would be seen on the evening before this day here, which would be April 26th. And again, we're counting off the days of Shavuot here. So this is the 16th day, the first day of the month. These are the day of the month on the first count, the new moon day, 1, 2, and so on. And then we count off the days of Shavuot here, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. And this is the 4th Sabbath here, and the 7th day of the second month. And we come to the 15th day of the second month on a Sunday, and the 30th day on the count to Shavuot, continuing 36, 43, and here's the 7th Sabbath here. 43 and the 7th Sabbath, and the month ends with 29 days on the 44th day of the count, and then the new moon again will be seen in the evening of this day. So let's click off to the next calendar. Okay, here we are again in the month of Sivan, which is the 3rd month. And again, visibility is easily visible. The day before, not visible. First day of the month is here. And we've counted 7 Sabbaths. That's what this counts for. And the 45th day, the count to Shavuot. And then we have 46, 47, 48, 49, and 50. And so this is the 6th day of the month and the 50th day on the count to Shavuot. And we'll see it's the 7th day of the week here, or the weekly Sabbath. Okay, and now in the previous video I discussed that after this weekly Sabbath, the cloud stood over Mount Sinai for 6 days. And so we'll see how that works. The 6 days would be the 6 days of the regular week following, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then on the 7th day, the Almighty spoke to Moses again, which in the Julian calendar would be June 7th, 1632 BC. And again, you can ignore the priestly divisions here. So, if we go backwards, knowing that Shavuot, that the Almighty spoke to Moses on the Sabbath, the mountain was covered for 6 days, going back to these 6 days here, between the 7th and 13th days of the month. These 6 days between the 12th, the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th days of the month. It was covered. The 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, the cloud covered the mountain, and on the 13th day of the month, the Almighty spoke to Moshe. So clearly, you have to have 6 regular days here. And then that would make Shavuot, or the feast day, when they ratified the covenant, the day before on the weekly Sabbath. Counting backwards to 50 days brings us to a Friday for the annual Sabbath. So let's pop that chart up again. Here we go. So we count backwards to find the first day on the Sabbath of April 12th, 1632 BC. And then that would be the morrow of the annual Sabbath, which would land on Friday that year, proleptically. That is, before it was legislated. So this gives the significance of the counting of the 50 days in the historical sense.